Hey guys, Luke with Logical Lacrosse here, and today we're going to be going over part one of my three-part series for the NCAA Lacrosse Week 2 review. Splitting up into three parts just to keep the videos a little shorter. I'll be sure to put in the description which games I talk about for each part, so if you're looking for a specific game, you can find it easily. But let's get started. Alright, so week 2 started with a bang. I think most people were shocked by this, unless you were a diehard High Point fan, or if you have really good insight into that program. I for sure was not expecting this. I knew High Point was good, but didn't think they were going to do this. They beat Duke on the road, 13-9. Really took control of the game, especially late on the Blue Devils. The attendance of the game was 819 people. And what really killed Duke was High Point scored 7 goals in the fourth quarter. And when you give up 7 goals in the fourth quarter, you're really going to struggle to win in any game unless you're just absolutely blowing out the team you're playing, like your Penn State against Robert Morris. But shots really even, 39 for High Point, 41 for Duke. Turnovers extremely high. That'll be kind of a story for week 2. A lot of turnovers for almost all the teams. 20 for High Point, 18 for Duke. Man up, 1 for 2 for High Point. And 1 of 6 for Duke. Really a big another factor for why Duke lost. If they would have converted, they lost by 4. If they would have converted 4 more, those would have been a tie game. Converted all of them, they would have won. So High Point did well, 50%, but Duke's got to improve on that. They were really sloppy this game. And Duke's player, we'll get into the players of the game now. Duke's players of the game are Joey Manown. He had 4 goals, 1 assist. Definitely the biggest bright spot for Duke, basically 50% of their scoring output. And JT Giles Harris, he had 2 ground balls and 1 big turnover that really almost brought Duke back in the game. There was a point in the fourth where it looked like High Point was going to slip and blow it. And he had a big hit on Asher Knowlton and got the turnover. And I think Duke scored next. So he had some good plays. He was always in the right spot, like he usually is. He's probably the best D-pull in the country, at least in my opinion. High Points player of the game, we are going to start with Ben Baker, 3 goals. Asher Knowlton did well as 2, but he's not going to be my player of the game. My other player of the game, the star, again, Tim Troutner Jr., 19 saves. I mean, the government shutdown won't happen. Trump's going to just put Tim Troutner on the border. And this guy stops everything. He doesn't let anything through. We got a shutout in week 1 against St. Bonaventure, and now he has 19 saves against Duke. He holds them to 9 goals. I mean, wow, he's having a really good year so far, and congratulations to the Panthers for a huge upset. So next on the list, the upsets did not stop with the Duke game as we moved on to Friday night, and Syracuse hosted an unranked Colgate, and they lost in front of 2,698 people. The final score was 12-9 Colgate. They really kind of dominated Syracuse. They looked like the better team the whole game, in my opinion. Also, special shout out to Matt Carwick. This was his first game as the Colgate head coach. I mean, pretty good way to start to come out on the road and be a top 10 team. So Colgate's definitely got everyone's attention in the Patriot League now, and they might be the biggest threat to Loyola, who we'll get to later. But shots, Colgate won 41-36. Turnovers, both teams at 18. High turnovers again, just like the Duke game. Face-offs, basically even, 12 for Colgate, 13 for Syracuse. Ground balls, they outworked Syracuse 31-25. My Syracuse players of the game, Nate Solomon, he had 3 goals, and Brendan Curry, 3 goals. Really, 2 guys expected to be good. They did well in their opener, but they, 66% of their scoring output, but just wasn't enough. No one else really stepped up for him. For Colgate players of the game, Nicky Petkovich, 4 goals, and Duncan Hoskinson, 3 goals. So really good job to those guys, and congratulations to Matt Carwick and Colgate for a great start to the year and his first win as the Colgate head coach. So Saturday had some excitement as well, if believe it or not. And we'll start with the Michigan at Cleveland State game. I'm a little high on Michigan, and Cleveland, I think they're going to surprise some folks this year. They had a tough opening game on the road at Cleveland State, who's definitely improved since filling a program. Michigan takes it 10-8. Shots were in their favor, 45-30. Turnovers high for both teams, 17 for Michigan, 21 for the Vikings. Way too high, especially if you're Cleveland. Face-off wins, Cleveland won this battle 12-8. Ground balls, they also won 30-25, and the man up, both teams went 0%. That's honestly just terrible. Cleveland State would have went 100% on their man up, or at least 2 for 3. They would have tied or won. Michigan 0 for 5. They would have converted on all those or 3 of them. I mean, they would have won, 13-8? 15-8, they converted on all. I mean, we wouldn't even be talking about this as a close game. Cleveland State kept it close against Ohio State, couldn't convert on the man up, and that's the reason they lost. Kind of the same story for them. So that's probably the biggest thing for Cleveland State. They're going to have to improve on that under Danny Sheridan. Players of the game, we'll start with Michigan. Alex Bukanovich gets 3 goals and 2 assists, so he did really well. And Kevin Mack, who I highlighted in my preseason projections for Michigan, Kevin Mack, 2 goals, 1 assist, so he did really well. And Cleveland State, only 1 player of the game. Michael Wilson was pretty solid, 2 goals, probably their 25% of their scoring output. I think he was the only multi-goal scorer, or at least there were not many. If there was another one, I don't remember any others standing out for the game. But good job to Michigan, and Cleveland State will still be tough, so it'll be interesting to see how they respond after an 0-2 start. So next up, we're going to talk about the team that has definitely been the most impressive through the first 2 weeks of the season, and that is Penn State. They hosted Robert Morris today, a team that made the NCAA last year and won their conference. Penn State murdered them 27-10. It was 18-3 at one point in the second quarter. I mean, the scoreboard might be broken in Hluba Hall. Sadly, we couldn't watch it. It was in Hluba Hall, and they don't get streaming capabilities in there. That's probably the biggest knock on Penn State. It's not their play, it's the facilities. They gotta improve that so we can see their indoor games. 27-10. Shots were actually basically even, though. 51 for Penn State, 50 for Robert Morris. Turnovers, 16 for Robert Morris, 14 for Penn State. 14 is not, I mean, you want it under double digits, but I'm not going to knock them for that. They were clearly playing really high tempo, and, I mean, they're going to have some turnovers when you push the pace like that. It really didn't hurt them this game, but that's something you want to watch for later on, especially when they play Yale in 2 weeks, I believe. Face-off wins, Penn State wins 16-23. Ground balls, they win 34-30. Man up, good for both teams. Robert Morris, 100%, 4 for 4, and Penn State 2 for 3. So 100% and 66%. Good job, both those man ups. Some teams definitely have been struggling on their man ups so far, so it's nice to see some teams have a really successful man up. My players of the game, we'll start with Penn State. Mac O'Keefe, who really struggled against Robert Morris last year. He definitely redeemed himself. He had 5 goals, 1 assist, so a 6-point game. TJ Malone, 4 goals, 1 assist. He's definitely really started to step up and be noticeable. I've been really impressed by TJ Malone. I don't think it gets talked about as much because of Grant Amon and Mac O'Keefe, but TJ Malone's a player to watch. Players of the game, Robert Morris, kind of hard to find one for them, but I'm going to give it to Tyson Gibson. 3 goals, 2 assists, really their best player all day. But Penn State really dominated this game. They play Stony Brook on the road next week. I'm hoping to be able to watch that game. And I would not be excited if I was a Stony Brook defense, but we're going to see how good Penn State is when they play Yale in a couple weeks. That's definitely going to be the game of the week, and we're going to see how good they really are. So next up, a pretty solid matchup, probably not talked about too much in the lacrosse community, but Delaware played at Mount St. Mary's, who struggled in the past, but they've definitely improved in the past few years. Delaware takes it 11-8. Shots were in their favor, 43-37. Turnovers, 22 for Delaware, 18 for Mount St. Mary's. Way too high for both teams. Mount St. Mary's knocks that down. They might have won. Delaware knocks that down, and they might have won by more. Face-offs, this really helped Delaware. I think this is the reason they won. They won them 14-8. Ground balls, they did lose this battle to the Mount St. Mary's, 32-28. So players of the game for Delaware, Bryce Reed, 4 goals. Charlie Kitchen, 2 goals, 3 assists. So good job to those 2 guys. And for Mount St. Mary's, I'm going to give it to Jack Mangan, 2 goals, 1 assist. 25% of their scoring output. Tough game for both teams. Good, even-matched opponents. And it'll be cool to see how they play moving forward. No one's really talked about either team, but gotta cheer for. They both seem like middle-of-the-pack teams, but it'll be interesting to see if they can prove me wrong and move up to that higher tier, higher tier. So next up, Maryland again, kind of not too impressive. They only beat Richmond at home 10-9. They were beating them by a lot, and it slipped 10-9, but it was 10-5, and Richmond racks up 5 goals, makes it 10-9. So Maryland's sloppy again. I mean, they gotta clean that up because they're gonna be playing some better opponents soon. No disrespect to Bucknell and Richmond, but Maryland starts Big Ten play. The offenses like Rutgers and Penn State, Ohio State, and they're gonna struggle if they take the fourth quarter off. But shots were in Maryland's favor, 47-35. Turnovers, Maryland 13 turnovers, really pretty high for Maryland still. It's 17 last week, 10 for Richmond, so pretty good. Face-offs, this is really what made Maryland win the game. In a one-goal game, face-offs really make the difference. They won them 20-3. Ground balls, they also won 32-21. For players of the game, Ryan Landsberg, 5 goals for Richmond, over 50% of their offensive output. So he was really the offense. Maryland could not stop him. Players of the game for Maryland, Jared Bernhardt, I highlighted him in the preseason. I said he's going to really have to step up with the loss of all their good players that Maryland lost. And he did, 5 goals. And my other player of the game, Austin Henningsen, 15 of 15 on faceoffs, so perfect. I mean, that's really the reason I think Maryland won. They got the ball a couple, obviously 15 more times than Richmond, and that really helped the offense get set up and probably tired out the Richmond D. So next up, Georgetown hosting Sacred Heart, the defending Big East champs, win 13-10, a little closer than probably some people expected. Sacred Heart outshot them 48-41. Turnovers, 22 for Sacred Heart, 19 for the Hoyas. Not good for either side. Caused turnovers, both teams did cause 12 though, so both defenses do deserve credit for that. So some of that is from the defenses playing well on the ride and such. Face-off, basically even, 13 wins for Sacred Heart, 14 for Georgetown. Ground balls, Georgetown takes us 30-26. My players in the game for Georgetown, Daniel Bucaro, 3 goals, 4 assists, and Jake Caraway, 3 goals, 2 assists as well. Well, he had the 2 assists, but 3 goals as well. And those guys I mentioned in the preseason, they got to step up if they want to be a threat to Denver. And I saw Denver in person this Saturday, and Denver looked really good. So Georgetown's going to have to step up some more. They don't want to be playing teams like Sacred Heart, no disrespect to them, but they don't want to be playing them that close. Players of the game, for Sacred Heart, I'm giving it to Joe Segezi, 5 goals, literally 50% of the goals for his team. But a little bit of a underwhelming opener for Georgetown, but Sacred Heart, very impressive. I know they lost, but definitely are going to probably surprise some folks this year. So next, Ohio State, tough, close game against Cleveland State last week. This week, they really beat up on Boston. They win 17-10 at home. Boston did outshoot them 52-33, and Ohio State had 17 turnovers compared to Boston's 11, which is terrible for Ohio State. Face-offs, though, Ohio State wins 19-11. Ground balls, they dominated 41-25. Man-ups were both 33%. Boston 2 of 6. Ohio State 1 of 3. Want to bring it up a little more, but if Boston could have scored on all of them, it would have been 14-17. Way different game. You never know what happens then. Switches everything around, but Ohio State really did dominate, so you gotta give credit to the Buckeyes and Nick Myers. Boston players of the game, James Burr, 6 goals, Chris Gray, 1 goal, 4 assists. Kind of like how these guys got a Batman and Robin duo going on. They're both really the key pieces of the offense, so it'll be interesting to see how they play moving forward. Ohio State players of the game, Jack Dazinski led the team in goals with 5, and Trey LeClaire, 4 goals, 1 assist. So good job to those guys. They really were unstoppable for the Terriers, and the Buckeyes will be interesting to see moving forward, as well as the duo of the 2 Boston attackmen. So, I mentioned this game last week that this was going to be a big game for both teams. New Jersey Institute of Technology at Lafayette. Lafayette takes it 14-10, and you'll see why in the statistics that I'm about to read off. 40-26 shot advantage for Lafayette. NJIT still could have won, but 27 turnovers. That is just absolutely horrible. They turned it over more than they shot the ball. You're not going to win any games if you turn over that much, and they really could have won this game. That probably makes the difference. It could have maybe been a 2-1 goal game, and you never know then. So 27 turnovers for the Highlanders of NJIT and 13 for the Leopards. So pretty not bad. Face-offs. This kind of helped maybe counteract all the turnovers, but 20-6 in favor of the Highlanders. Ground balls, they win 32-26. The effort's there, but man, they turn it over so much. Special note for this game, this was the first win for the new Lafayette head coach, Patrick Byers. So congratulations to Patrick for getting his first win with the Leopards. It's a program that's kind of struggled in their league and just to get some national relevance. So I really hope he can turn that culture around and really build something. He's on the right track. Played Rutgers tough first week. So players of the game, we'll start with NJIT, and I'm going to give the honors to Ryan Darrow with 3 goals, 1 assist, and Aaron Forster, 3 goals and 1 assist. For Lafayette, I'm giving it to Connor Dennert, 5 goals, and Cole Dunn, 3 goals. So really good. Those 2 guys combined for over 50%. And Lafayette will be interested to see moving forward, and the Highlanders are going to have to clean up those turnovers. I mean, I'm going to say the same thing until they clean it up. That's what's costing them from jumping up to another level, from moving up from the kind of the bottom of the D1 polls. So this will be the last game we cover for part 1, and this is St. Bonaventure, a new D1 program at St. Joseph's. St. Bonaventure definitely played a lot better. Shouldn't feel too bad about losing to High Point now. I know they got shut out, but High Point just beat Duke. So they had a tougher opener than Utah, honestly. And St. Joseph takes 15-7. It was 3-3 at the end of the first, but then St. Joseph's outscored the Bonnies 6-0 in the second quarter, and they kind of pulled away. So that's just kind of a depth thing and a youth movement for the Bonnies. Shots, still not that good for St. Bonaventure, but they did have a better conversion rate, obviously, because they scored this time. But 52-25 in favor of St. Joe's. Ground balls, 37-24, favor of St. Joe's as well. Saves, 13-10 in favor of the Bonnies. Clears, they struggled on again, 19-28, while St. Joseph's went 17-19. Face-offs, this is what killed St. Bonaventure. They were bad in this in week 1, and they're going to have to keep improving. They just got to power through this part. I don't know if they're going to put 2 poles on the face-offs or what, or something. They got to do something. But just jam the guy, or just straight run back and surrender the face-off. But they lose this 4-21. And then man up, they went 1-4. St. Joseph's 1-6. Both teams got to bring that up. I'm going to give my players of the game for St. Bonaventure to Sean Wesley, 2 goals, 2 assists, and he also had the first goal in program history, so congratulations to Sean if you're watching this. You're always going to be in your school's record books now as having the first goal. And my other guy I'm giving it to is Ben Mazur, 13 saves goalie. I don't know why he was in goal, no offense to Ben, but Brent Donnelly, he was amazing in week 1, so I don't know if he got injured or something, because he definitely didn't do anything to lose his job. But something must have happened with that. But still, Ben played well and admirable as well. For St. Joe's, players of the game, Nate Patterson, 4 goals. And I'm going to give the other one to Zach Cole, 14 ground balls. I mean, literally a vacuum. It's like he has a magnet that attracts the ball. So good job to those 2 guys as well. And St. Joseph's, I think, is really going to be a tough team in their conference. I think they're going to unseat Robert Morris. And St. Bonaventure definitely improved. It'll be cool to see how they keep moving forward and moving on. So guys, that'll sum it up for part 1 of this 3-part series for the NCAA Week 2 review. So don't worry if I didn't cover the game you wanted. I'll have those in the other 2 episodes for this week's review. In the meantime, please feel free to follow me on Instagram or Twitter at the same name, logical_lacrosse, or go to my website at www.logicallacrosse.com for more content like this. Don't forget to leave a like and subscribe. I really appreciate it. We can help grow this up. I'm definitely going to be trying. I'm definitely looking into getting some more effects, maybe some kind of music to go with the intro. I know it's a little slightly bland right now, but the main thing for me is I want to get the information to you guys and really analyze the games. That's kind of what I'm good at. If you saw my predictions and you told all your friends about them, I am sorry. I don't think anyone could have predicted all these upsets, though. But thank you very much, and I look forward to seeing you guys for the next 2 parts.